Did you know that Ferrari is on the brink of technical collapse after just 3 races in the 2025 season? Bahrain could be their last chance at redemption, but do they really have what it takes to turn this disaster around? Stick around, because today we're going to unravel the drama behind the SF25, the controversial disqualifications, and the shocking updates that could define the prancing horse's immediate future. In this video, you'll discover all the technical, strategic, and even political details of the new improvements Ferrari is about to introduce. From its failed start in Australia, China, and Japan to Fred Vasseur's harsh words and the under-the-chassis moves that could change everything. Before we continue, I want you to let me know in the comments. Do you think Ferrari can catch McLaren and Red Bull with this new package? Who would have imagined that Ferrari, one of the most iconic teams in the history of Formula One, would be going through such a severe technical and strategic storm just as the 2025 season was about to begin? Expectations were enormous. The signing of Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, promised to mark a new era for the Scuderia. Along with Charles Leclerc, the Monegasque whom many consider Maranello's darling, the duo had all the potential to return Ferrari to the top. However, reality hit with a harshness that even the most pessimistic could not have expected. It all started with a race in Australia that left more questions than answers. The race pace was inconsistent, tire degradation spiraled out of control, and strategies seemed improvised. But if Australia was a warning sign, the Chinese Grand Prix turned into a true catastrophe. In a single weekend, Ferrari achieved the unthinkable, coming away with 0 points despite Hamilton winning the sprint race. The reason? A double disqualification that exposed fundamental errors that a championship team cannot afford. Hamilton was disqualified for excessive wear on the skid block, the board that measures whether the car has been running too low. The minimum thickness is 9 mm, and the Britain's car measured between 8.5 and 8.6 mm. This is unacceptable at this level. At the same time, Leclerc's car was found to be under the minimum weight requirement, barely a kilogram less, but enough for the FIA to apply the regulations to the letter. The most painful thing about all this is that these weren't errors in technical interpretation or gray areas of the regulations. They were basic, black and white errors that should be fully under control at a team like Ferrari. The frustration was such that team principal Fred Vasseur was quick to express his discontent to the media. Beyond his criticism of FOM's coverage for allegedly manipulating radio messages to dramatize internal tensions, what resonated most was his brutal honesty. Ferrari not only doesn't have the fastest car, it's not even close. In his own words, they're between 2 and 4 tenths per lap behind their direct rivals, both in qualifying and the race. And in today's F1 with such tight margins, that's an eternity. The most worrying thing isn't just the gap to leaders like McLaren or Red Bull, but the fact that Ferrari is sharing points with Williams. Yes, with Williams, a team that until 2 years ago was struggling to get out of the back of the grid. This season's start has them tied for 5th in the Constructors' Championship, an unthinkable position for the Scuderia considering its resources, infrastructure, and driving talent. Furthermore, this crisis isn't simply a result-based one. It's structural. The SF25 has proven to have speed, yes, but only in very specific situations, as Hamilton demonstrated in the sprint race in China. However, under normal race conditions with a full tank and multiple variables at play, the car loses efficiency, stability, and consistency. This has set off alarm bells at Maranello, where there's no longer talk of minor tweaks, but rather a complete overhaul of the technical package. Meanwhile, the pressure is mounting. The media, fans, rivals, everyone is scrutinizing Ferrari's every decision. It's not just a question of performance, it's a question of credibility. If the improvements don't arrive soon and don't work as expected, this could be another wasted season for a team caught between its glorious past and a present plagued by technical errors, erratic decisions, and expectations that, once again, threaten to go unmet. Will Bahrain be the turning point or simply another chapter in the prancing horse's free fall? We analyze it below. At Maranello, they know this very well. If there's one thing they can't afford at this stage of the season, it's continued improvisation. And that's why they've decided to go all out in Bahrain. The package of updates Ferrari is about to implement isn't a simple evolution, but a strategic transformation of the SF25. It's not just about adding downforce or reducing drag. It's about attacking the roots of the structural problems that have plagued the car since its first contact with the track in Australia. The heart of these improvements lies in the car's floor. For many, this is one of the most underrated components in the development of a modern Formula One car. But those who understand aerodynamics know that the floor is the true downforce generator. It's the invisible point of contact with the asphalt that allows the entire car to function as an integrated system. Ferrari has specifically worked on the undercut area, a key section on the sides of the floor, to better redirect airflow and maintain a constant height, especially in real-world racing conditions with full fuel and progressive tire wear. This new design seeks to correct one of the SF25's chronic ills, its excessive rear stiffness. In other words, the car lacks the flexibility to dynamically adapt to load changes. This stiffness causes the car to bounce, lose traction in high-speed corners, and worse, reduce its performance on bumpy or uneven tracks, as seen in Shanghai. With the new floor, Ferrari hopes to improve not only aerodynamic efficiency but also the car's longitudinal stability. This should translate into a more docile, more predictable, and faster car lap after lap, less dependent on tire temperature or track conditions. But the work doesn't end there. At Maranello, they understand that you can't change just one part without adapting the entire car's ecosystem. For this reason, along with the new flat floor, a modified version of the front wing is also arriving. This new configuration doesn't seek to directly generate more downforce, but rather to modify the behavior of the airflow reaching the ground. It's a precise synergy. The airflow channeled through the front wing must work in perfect harmony with the venturi tunnels at the rear of the car. If this coupling works, the SF25 could regain not only the lost tenths of a second, but also some of the control and confidence its drivers have so longed for. And while the visible changes are the most striking, the most delicate adjustments lie beneath the car's skin, in components that are rarely seen but that define everything: the rear suspension. This is where Ferrari has identified one of its main Achilles heels. The SF25 suffered from excessive rear-end squat under load, the so-called squat, which directly affected ride height and, in extreme cases like Hamilton's in China, caused abnormal wear on the car's floorboards. To address this, the team has worked on a thorough review of the suspension's elastic components. There's talk of new progressive springs and recalibrated travel stops to prevent the dynamic collapse that has so severely affected its consistency. These types of adjustments are extremely sensitive. A millimeter more or less can radically change the car's behavior. But if they manage to find the right balance, the SF25 could overcome its road contact issues and become a car that is not only fast in ideal conditions, but also stable and efficient in the midst of degradation or in traffic situations. These improvements, moreover, come at a crucial time. There's no room for intermediate testing or lengthy factory analysis. Everything will be validated directly on track in Bahrain. It's a high-risk move, but also a highly audacious one. Because if this package works as planned, Ferrari could not only return to fighting for podiums, but also regain the lost respect among its rivals. If it doesn't, the morale blow could be deeper than any technical setback. And in a season where McLaren has started strongly, Mercedes is beginning to find its rhythm, and Red Bull is still Red Bull, there's no room for more mistakes. The margin is slim, but the potential is there. The SF25 is about to receive a second chance. The big question is whether it will live up to it. It all comes down to this. Bahrain isn't just another race on the 2025 Formula One calendar. For Ferrari, it represents a true acid test, a full-scale public examination of the work done in Maranello after the strategic and technical collapse of the championship's first 2 rounds. There is no room for error. Every free practice session, every qualifying lap, every race stint will be an opportunity to validate or discard the most ambitious update package Ferrari has implemented in recent years in the midst of a crisis. The secure layout is particularly demanding on the car's balance. Medium and low-speed corners, aggressive braking, zones of compromised traction, and long straights demand aerodynamic efficiency without sacrificing rear-end stability. It is, in many ways, the perfect circuit to expose the structural weaknesses of a poorly set-up car, but also the best setting for a well-tuned car to shine. And that's exactly what makes Bahrain the ideal laboratory to test whether the SF25 has taken the necessary step forward. But beyond engineering and design, there's an unavoidable psychological dimension. Ferrari comes to this Grand Prix with a team in a state of disarray. The disqualifications in China didn't just cost valuable points. They damaged internal confidence, generated tension in the paddock, and set off all the media alarms. The errors committed weren't strategic or calculated risks, but rather basic procedural failures, and this has undermined the respect the Scuderia had. If the car continues to underperform in Bahrain, if the problems persist, or the solutions implemented fail, the impact will be devastating. Not only on the standings, but on team morale and the narrative surrounding Ferrari throughout the season. And it's not just Ferrari that's watching this event closely. The entire grid is paying close attention. McLaren, which has surprised with impeccable tire management and a competitive car from the first race, starts as one of the leading lights. Mercedes, meanwhile, has already begun to show signs of recovery and a real threat to the podium. Williams, with Carlos Sainz more competitive than ever, has already become a thorn in the side of the Maranello team. And Red Bull? Red Bull is simply watching from its position of dominance, waiting to see if anyone can really close the gap. In this context, the spotlight will also be on the drivers. Charles Leclerc needs to regain authority within the team after the morale blow of his disqualification and the narrative that has followed him for the past 2 seasons. Speed without consistent results. And Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton isn't just racing against the clock. He's racing against the pressure of justifying his signing, against the scrutiny of every word, every maneuver, and every radio message. Victory in the sprint race in China demonstrated that the talent is intact. But it also made it clear that the car isn't keeping up with him. If Bahrain confirms the same flaws, questions will inevitably arise. Was Hamilton wrong to leave Mercedes for Ferrari? The expected impact in Bahrain goes beyond the technical. If the update package works, Ferrari would not only score important points again, but would also regain credibility, demonstrate resilience, and begin to build a narrative of redemption. A podium finish, even a real fight for the top 5, could mark a turning point for the team. But if it fails, what follows won't just be disappointment. It will intensify an internal storm that is already on the verge of collapse. Questions about Vasseur's leadership, the team's technical structure, the direction of the car's development, and above all, the viability of the Hamilton-Ferrari project will begin to resonate with a much more destructive force. Bahrain will literally be the breaking point. Redemption or ruin. Rise to the championship fight or relegation to another season marked by frustration. Ferrari arrives with a plan, with new parts, with profound adjustments, and with the urgency of someone who knows they can't fail. Everything is on the table. Now, all that remains is to see if this new SF25 is ready to become a contender, or if the Scuderia will sink once again into the desert sands. And after thoroughly reviewing the chaos, the improvements, and the expectations surrounding Ferrari at the start of this season, what remains is a feeling of contained tension. This is not a minor crisis or a simple bump in the road. What Ferrari is experiencing in 2025 is a turning point in its recent history, a battle to prove that it can still be relevant in an increasingly competitive and ruthless Formula One. Today we saw how mistakes at the foundation, failures to comply with regulations, structural issues with the SF25, and poor execution led the championship's most successful team to rock bottom in just 2 races. We've also broken down the solutions being prepared for Bahrain: a new floor, aerodynamic tweaks, a suspension overhaul, and a complete reinterpretation of the car's aerodynamic flow. All of this points to one thing: Ferrari is willing to change everything to avoid being left behind. But beyond the technical changes, what's at stake is something much deeper: Ferrari's identity. A team that can't afford another year of false promises, that can't continue living in the past while the present slips through its fingers. The world of Formula One is impatient, and if this package of updates doesn't deliver, the pressure on Vasseur, the engineers, and the drivers themselves will grow to the point of becoming unsustainable. And you who are watching this, I leave you with the most important question. Are we witnessing the beginning of a tactical and technical resurrection for Ferrari, or just another episode in its long list of modern frustrations? Can this new SF25 truly rise to the challenge, or will it be devoured by its own flaws before mid-season? I want to hear from you in the comments. Your opinion is key to opening the debate this situation deserves. Will Bahrain mark the return of the prancing horse, or confirmation that the 2025 season will be another wasted opportunity? If this analysis helped you better understand the current drama at Ferrari and you enjoy in-depth content about Formula One, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. See you next time.